But we still have set 4 to bring you, and we're going to bring you that right now. That's the big one today, Luminosity Gaming up against Allegiance. We'll see if LG can keep themselves near the top, or whether ALG will make strides to get there as well. Heading over to Agro and Anatoly.
Thank you very much, Hindu. Like you mentioned, a little bit earlier than many expected, so we're going to see Luminosity versus ALG, but it's going to be a great set nonetheless. This is two top-tier North American teams. Allegiance coming off a big 2-0 up against the United last time we saw them play, and Luminosity, I mean, it's Luminosity. Like, they're going to be good no matter what.
They're looking so strong in this split. Same story compared to the last fall split where they were the first online. You know, they didn't do the best job compared to their LAN performance from online, but they still made it to Super Regionals. They did a wonderful job there as well. You know, made it to Worlds as well, riding off of the success from Orbits, thankfully. But now, heading into this game in picks and bans, they're going to look to get another victory here against Team Allegiance, who has been kind of in the middle of the pack with 4 points thus far. Yeah,
Allegiance, they split against Noble earlier, then they found the 2-0 against E United, so they definitely are still working together as a team. Remember, there were some roster changes for them after the Worlds performance. They drop MLC Stealth out of the middle lane, end up picking up Metyankey. But even despite only having the one roster change, that roster hadn't been together very long to build that synergy necessary to really be a top-tier team. Now we can start to see how their scrims have been starting to progress and where they rank among the other North American teams. Terra, the first pick for Allegiance. Terra has seen a really big resurgence as of late.
It's a great god to pick this early in the draft if you don't know what to expect if you're the opposing team, whether it's going to be the solo lane or the Guardian position. Knowing CycloneSpin, he's been playing more Guardians recently in that solo lane, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that they do, especially considering PolarBearMike likes to play some warrior support, specifically Amaterasu.
That is very true. PBM very flexible, as is CycloneSpin, as is Weekend. That Cabrakan could certainly be in the jungle, support, or solo. Who knows for Team Allegiance at this stage. Chang'e, that's going to be in the middle lane most likely. As you can see, they picked it once before. They went to Metyankey. They found a victory. Why not try it again?
Might as well. It has great synergy in these team fights with the sustain to Terra. You have a little bit of mobility. You can get out of that Kraken as well using your second ability, having those immunity frames. It's going to be so important for Metyankey to save onto that ability to either negate the Ratatoskr knockup ultimate or the Kraken knockup.
I think that's the really big counter pick here for Team Allegiance, is that Chang'e into the Poseidon. You can go into Purification Beads and not really worry so much about that Kraken, knowing as long as you have your second ability up, you're not going to be able to get gobbled up by the sea monster. 2 warriors banned away by Luminosity, covering both the solo lane and the Guardian role, like you were mentioning. And Medusa and Odin, the 2 bans here for Allegiance.
Could also still play Erlang Shen here for PolarBearMike if that's an option that he likes to do. Could also still play the Terra in that role, depending on what CycloneSpin wants to do in the solo lane. Fafnir has been locked in, and Fafnir usually not a god that you'll see typically in the solo lane, so more than likely it will be Fafnir for PolarBearMike. Terra will be going for CycloneSpin.
And then Ram going to be the final pick there for Allegiance. Fafnir definitely going to be looking to boost up Ram's attack speed. Ocean's going to be on the receiving end of that coerce buff from PolarBearMike throughout the game, without a doubt. Up against that Anhur of BaRRaCCuDDa in that lane, waiting to see exactly what Scary D wants to play.
Hades.
That's a Hades.
I like it because now against the Cabrakan, you're going to be able to silence out his tremors. You're going to be able to force out a lot of beads here in terms of the Khepri and the Ratatoskr. So once Scary D makes these rotations on the Hades, he's going to be making such a huge impact with that Pillar of Agony.
That's true. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of leaps available for Allegiance. Ram and Fafnir can get out of that ultimate fairly easily, but I don't know. Terra's got a short-range dash. You probably need to break a monolith or a crushing wall in order to get out of that ultimate and get the double dash. Weekend won't be able to get out. Metyankey, even with his second ability, as you rank it up, it gains in frames, duration that you're immune. And I don't think in the early stages of the game it'd be enough to get out of that Pillar of Agony as long as Scary D catches Metyankey in the very center of it.
That's generally the goal of a lot of Hades players. There's some gods that can get out of that Hades ultimate if you're on the edge, but if you're dead set in the middle, you're not going to be able to. So that's very important for Metyankey to keep his distance away from Scary D during these rotations. Looking at the solo lane itemization here, both of these solo laners going for the Mana Chalice, and this is normally a very common thing for Guardians to do in the early game, considering the fact that normally they're going to be left alone depending on how the teams want to start out. And whether or not you have the blue buff, whichever one doesn't, is going to be the deciding factor of who's going to control the laning phase a little bit better.
Well, JeffHindla, he's gone all the way over to the opposite side of the map for his start. He's going to be in the solo lane with ScaryD. BaRRaCCuDDa picks up the little guys on his red buff just to ensure that Allegiance won't be able to get an easy pressure there. Decision from Baskin to get Title Surge pays big dividends as he's able to knock Weekend out of those tremors, which almost spelled big trouble for him and Mask.
It still took a lot of damage, though, on the side of Baskin and Luminosity in the mid lane. Allegiance was able to clear out their mid wave first. Luminosity putting pressure in that solo lane. They don't really have time to secure their own blue buff despite the invade. They're just going to let that go and put CycloneSpin in a position where he's going to be behind, trailing ScaryD for a little bit.
BaRRaCCuDDa rather on this left-hand side, all by himself, all by his lonesome. He loses the red buff, he loses the purple buff. Luminosity clearly okay with this strategy, allowing BaRRa to be on the island, trusting the hunter, the veteran hunter, to be a little bit behind up against Oceans, but be able to really bring that boxing potential and rotation potential into those mid-game stages with that Anhur where he really excels.
Despite CycloneSpin losing his own blue buff, ALG is able to respond with 2 buff invades of their own in that duo lane, hurting BaRRaCCuDDa quite heavily here, and that's something you really want to do because the fact that the early game hunters can make a big impact in these team fights around the oracles, around the early gold furies, whereas the soul laners, it's fine if they don't get their own blue buff, especially with a mana chalice anyway. They're going to get online and they're going to make huge impacts once they get some cooldown reduction, especially on the side of Allegiance having Terra for CycloneSpin. That Terra's blessing, the global presence there alone for Allegiance is going to make huge dividends.
Without a doubt, and you see ScaryD actually going for a little bit of a different style than we see most players in the mid or the solo lane go for. The Vampiric Shroud, not going for the Mark of the Vanguard, which has been so prevalent that even Mask has picked it up instead of that Bluestone pendant. Why do you think we see ScaryD go for this more sustain-oriented option?
Well, the problem here for CycloneSpin is he's not going to have that much damage. Even his monolith, he has to be very mindful about the positioning since it's going to be broken by 3 in-hands. And because ScaryD is not worried about the damage coming out of CycloneSpin, he's not going to have to get any defenses. He's going to go for the magical power, a little bit of health, a little bit of sustain, getting health and mana per minion hit kill.
And ScaryD is playing a ranged character in the solo lane, which you really don't see a whole lot of. Ranged characters a little bit better at breaking that monolith because they can do it from a distance, not worry about the damage. Luminosity, they should be worried about the Gold Fury here. No one coming to contest whatsoever. They're going to, in Allegiance, steal it away. No problem whatsoever. 3 minutes in, no kills, but an objective down in the ground as Allegiance sneak away the Gold Fury.
PolarBearMike using his ultimate, the damage from that dragon, doing a lot to be able to secure that early objective. Now granted, this Gold Fury has been worth more since Season 4, starting off at 190 gold per player, increasing by 8 gold per minute. Still going to cap off at around 350 at the end of the game, but this is such an important start for Allegiance to be able to get some sort of snowball heading their way.
Yeah, I think people kind of forget about how strong and how easy it is for a team with a Fafnir to get an early Gold Fury like that because of the AoE Coerce buff. Fafnir spent so long as the premier Guardian, as the premier guy that you wanted in the support role. Then he kind of fell off a little bit and teams kind of forgot about him. Now it seems to be more of a flavor pick, especially if you're going for a double hunter sort of composition. Fafnir is very well favored because of the Coerce buff, but even without 2 hunters, hitting with multiple people with Coerce means that you can burn objectives very, very quickly, and it catches Luminosity off guard.
Just Allegiance showing why Fafnir is still very strong currently. Doesn't matter what meta it is to be played. CycloneSpin going to get silenced out here, but either way, a lot of support players aren't really necessarily comfortable mechanically on the Fafnir compared to a lot of other supports where it's a lot easier to land abilities. Sylvanas is the #1. You know, you're not going to really miss those Wisps, all those Wrath of Terrors. You're just trying to set up your team, whereas Fafnir hitting off that hammer stun, not the easiest compared to other supports.
Support mechanics, that's what it's all about. PolarBearMike knows all about those support mechanics and going to be looking to see how exactly what his conversion rate is on the hammer. Wouldn't that be cool if we had little like stats for the conversion rates of how many hammers you hit?
You want to know what PBM's conversion stat rate is for ulting purple buffs on Geb is?
Oh, what's that?
100%.
Of course. What's his conversion rate on buying both Blink and Sunder?
Ooh.
And successfully blinking, sundering, and one-shotting?
0%.
Really?
Yeah.
The leader of the Blink and Sunder clan?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Just not
he needs to spend some
it.
more time in the arena.
That's right. He needs to show his worth in the battleground of the gods here.
Well, he's trying to on the Fafnir, that's for sure. Level 6, right evened up with JeffHindla, who still hasn't backed. Jeff just spending some time farming over here on this right side. He hasn't spent any time over with his duo lane partner in BaRRaCCuDDa. This must be a pretty big change of pace for JeffHindla, who's been playing Smite competitively since, you know, the dawn of time, basically. Who's always been, supports have always been in the duo lane, always started out there, you farm there for a while, you're with your duo lane partner. Towards the end of Season 3, that started to change, and now in Season 4, it's completely different. You may not see your Hunter until the 12 to 15-minute mark.
It's so hard to predict where everyone is going to start. In the Eager set earlier on, Aurora was in mid lane the whole time, supporting out the best. This game for Luminosity, JeffHindla on the Khepri is supporting ScaryD's hi-rez. This is something that you're not normally used to seeing, and this is why Luminosity have been doing a good job, at least in the solo lane thus far, having a 2-level lead here for ScaryD.
And that's going to be a big boon if he's able to rotate and make it happen, because like you mentioned, I don't think he's got a whole lot of solo kill potential in that lane up against CycloneSpin. Cyclone does have to commit his dash in order to clear the wave in most instances, but we've seen just how passive he's willing to be. Just sitting under tower, waiting until the wave comes in, and then dashing under the safety of his tower. It's going to be a while before ScaryD is tanky enough to be willing to tank up that tower to try and get the kill.
Having a mark of the Vanguard is going to keep him alive a little bit longer also if ScaryD does try to commit him. Considering the fact that the hi-rez ultimate will tick several times, it's going to mitigate a little bit of that damage, but still doing a good job holding the wave outside the tower with that wall stun, positioning it sideways so that way the wave will sit right there, and then once he dashes through that initial one, the damage is good enough to be able to clear it out.
Basically an even game at this stage. Allegiance still with that slight gold lead, right around 1,000, thanks to that Gold Fury they snuck away from Luminosity right at the 3-minute mark. Gold Fury will respawn within the minute. Maybe Allegiance can try and sneak it away again, though I suspect the Luminosity going to be a little bit more wary to that objective this time around. PolarBearMike and the rest of Allegiance trying to steal away this red buff. JeffHindla's here. He's just a lonely little bug. It's going to be difficult for him to steal that away, and he will not. Allegiance secure the enemy red.
3 members make that 4 as Baskin joins up from Luminosity is here. A nice little Kraken wall. Going to pin out 2. The Chang'e is going to connect the Kraken. It's going to get negated by Metyankey with a little bit of sustain. PolarBearMike zoning in the back, but Mask looking to dive.
Scary is here, and a huge Pillar of Agony is going to pull in Metyankey. That's going to be a guaranteed first blood for Baskin. Now weaken the next one to fall. The Pillar Impale is beautiful. ScaryD right in there with him. The Tremors trying to trade out a little bit of damage, but not nearly enough. Ocean's gonna put a little bit of damage into Mask, but 2 for 0. Luminosity fight back into Allegiance, picking up the first 2 kills of the contest.
No escapes for Metyankey or weak, and not having dashes or jumps. BaRRaCCuDDa forced to jump and beads away, but the ultimate from JeffHindla is there and impactful. PolarBearMike's gonna tank the tower for a little bit longer, but Oceans, he didn't want to commit any further than there. BaRRaCCuDDa still had enough mana for one more ability, could have easily impaled Oceans back under that tier 1 tower.
Love the rotation there from ScaryD. He commits the teleport to get there in time, and that Pillar of Agony came up huge. Already the unconventional hi-rez pick giving big payoffs to Luminosity. That's what sets that whole team fight. It really cleans up that whole team fight that Luminosity had begun.
Last week, ScaryD was playing very aggressive gods in the likes of both Hercules and Thanatos, and this week, he's already switching things up to hi-rez, which is still aggressive, but it's not aggressive right off the bat. It's going to be more towards the mid to late, and once hi-rez gets a little bit of tanky presence, because the hi-rez damage will always be there, and ScaryD wants to be able to dive the backline. If there's an opportunity for him to rotate instead of going for a wave in the solo lane, he'll always look for it.
If you're rooting for Allegiance, you've got a lot of stuff to be thankful for, at least in the later stages of the game, because their late game composition is pretty insane. They've got a lot of sustain available to them between the Terra and the Chang'e. Fafnir is great in the late game. He becomes a pseudo warrior basically once he transforms into that dragon, courtesy of his ultimate. Ocean's playing a late game hyper carry. Chang'e can be a hyper carry in her own right in the late game, and it's really on Weekend to try and get them there through the early to mid stages, and then he'll transition into being this sort of CC companion bot for the rest of his team. Luminosity, their composition, you mentioned it, it's a little bit more mid-game focused.
Absolutely. Between both the hi-rez and the Poseidon, the brothers are going to be looking to work together to find those targets to kill. But looking at the side of Allegiance, they have 4 magical and only a physical onto Oceans. They need to make sure he doesn't fall too far behind, that he gets the late game items that he needs.
Oh, BaRRaCCuDDa in a bunch of trouble, but JeffHindla again there once more, just in case, with that Scarab's Blessing. Oceans waits for it to dissipate. BaRRa doesn't have a whole lot of room to jump, but Oceans can't see him in that pit and can't find the last 2 snipes. BaRRaCCuDDa escapes with his life.
And we see Weekend doing a great job zoning. We saw Oceans actually hitting 2, but the second one did not connect onto BaRRaCCuDDa, so the third one was very hesitant, finding the pull onto Weekend, but the ultimate from PBM zoning everyone out, Kraken onto 2. Mask in the sky, looking to redeem his support brethren.
BaRRaCCuDDa still not here though. It's a 3v5. Mask trying to peel now, trying to go in. Ocean taking a lot of damage. Desert Fury able to pick him up. Nice Pillar of Agony from ScaryD as well. Neither PBM nor Weekend had anywhere to go, and ScaryD picks up PBM.
And BaRRaCCuDDa jumping over the wall. ScaryD, he found all assists and the kills. He has 100% kill participation off of ScaryD's rotation, and now it's going to be a Gold Fury being started by Luminosity. ScaryD is zoning in the back. CycloneSpin lurking to leak around.
Oh, the Gold Fury does go down though, and it goes the way of Luminosity. CycloneSpin's in a bunch of trouble as well. Not a whole lot of mana or health available for Luminosity though, and CycloneSpin is already fairly tanky. He's got the Heartward Amulet, going for the more support-oriented build, really expecting to be in the majority of these team fights with an aura defense item like that. But Luminosity, they take the fight easily, and then the Gold Fury as well. That lead that the early Gold Fury gave to Allegiance, completely gone. 1,500 gold in favor of Luminosity and around 3,000 experience as well. And you called it out, Toli. The 100% kill participation for ScaryD. He's looked phenomenal early on in Season 4.
Already doing a great job in Season 4. Ever since he had a little bit of a shaky LAN performance during his Group B LAN, but heading into Worlds and Super Regionals, there was no shakiness out of him whatsoever. And now in Season 4, he's been basically the key factor towards Luminosity's success. And as a result, mixing things up between Assassin, Warrior, or even the Guardian.
Yeah, you can see 3 people here for Luminosity have been a part of all 5 kills, and that's the mid laner, the jungler, the solo laner, and the hunter. BaRRaCCuDDa with 3 kills early on in this game. There's been a lot of pressure onto him put on by Allegiance, but JeffHindla's always been there for his hunter, just like he has been for quite some time. Portal Demon getting started up here by Luminosity. Kraken gonna be there to secure it. It goes their way. No contest available for Allegiance. We can sniff it out, but it was just a little bit too late.
I like the timing by Luminosity to get that second objective. They just picked up the Gold Fury, and as a result, now getting an additional 750 gold under their pocket. A nice little advantage there for Baskin as well in the mid lane that's trying to do a little bit more damage here. Metyankey's going to be more utility-based, and I'm trying to figure out where's the true damage coming on the side of Allegiance, their magical-wise. If Metyankey is not in the front line with CycloneSpin and Weekend, it's all up to Oceans really to be the heavy hitter.
That's a great point. They're not really committing to a lot of burst damage. Chang'e, not your burst damage character whatsoever. CycloneSpin might be in a little bit of trouble here, but ScaryD not close enough, though he is going to use that Pillar of Agony. It's going to heal CycloneSpin due to those quick ticks, but they get out that long cooldown global ultimate for that Pillar of Agony, which in Allegiance's defense has been a big boon for them.
PolarBearMike jumping over the wall, looking to redeem a little bit of extra damage. ScaryD is going to get rooted into place. Mask forced ultimate, nothing too much to come out of it. And this was more of a test run coming out of Luminosity just to see how much damage they can actually do to CycloneSpin at this point in the game before he gets even more tankier.
Well, the tower goes down very, very quickly. 13 minutes in, and ScaryD has knocked down CycloneSpin's tower in the solo lane. This Hades pick working out thus far, really stacking a lot of magical protection because, like you said, Oceans is the only one that's going to be doing any physical for Allegiance, and even then, they don't have that burst mage in the middle lane. Metyankey on this Chang'e, very support-oriented.
Yeah, he even went for the Shield of Regrow, trying to get more mobility, trying to make sure that whenever CycloneSpin uses that ultimate, the all-in potential from Allegiance will be there to dive the backline for Luminosity. But with JeffHindla playing this Khepri, it's going to be really difficult for Allegiance to, even if they do find the right target that might be out of position, they're going to have to worry about the revival here from JeffHindla, and then the counter-engage from both Baskin's Kraken and then ScaryD's Pillar of Agony.
The more I look at this draft for Luminosity, the more I like it because of that Scarab's Blessing for JeffHindla. Usually in the mid to late stages of the game, Hades is a nightmare early on, pun intended, because of that Pillar of Agony. It's so difficult to focus him down due to the extra protections that he gets while he's doing it. But in the late game, you can kind of just kill him once he ults. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage unless he's really committing to a damage-oriented build. But with Scarab's Blessing, if everyone just turns and focuses ScaryD, then Jeff can revive him. He comes back at a fairly decent amount of HP. Got a good amount of sustain in his kit if he's able to dash in or put his blight on you and then hit that third ability. So there's a lot of reset potential here for Luminosity. Weaken's got a reset after getting hit by that Kraken. Pillar of Agony as well, and Weaken walks back into it right as
Where's
it expires.
the damage? There's no damage from Allegiance whatsoever. Mask in the sky, thinking about who he's going to land on. CycloneSpin going to dash. Mask going to miss, unfortunately, but it doesn't matter because a lot has been committed here for both teams, I would say. 3 for 3 ultimate-wise. Metyankey, Weaken, and CycloneSpin. That's a huge ultimate, not having the Terra's Blessing.
And as well, a bunch of ultimates used for Luminosity, but like you mentioned, Waxing Moon now and the Cabrakan ultimate, very, very difficult to fight without those in Allegiance's particular team composition. We saw the Thorns popped there by ScaryD, trying to just absorb a lot of that damage, and I love this pickup because the only one who's going to be able to kill him easily in that Pillar of Agony is Oceans on the Ram. You could just return a lot of that damage right back to him with that Thorns.
And what you were talking about before for ScaryD in the Pillar of Agony, how he's going to be an easy target for a lot of enemy abilities and enemy in-hands. At the same time, he's going to be an easy target for JeffHindla, not only for the Scarab Blessing, like you mentioned, but also for the Rising Dawn. It's going to mitigate a lot of that incoming damage, making him even more resilient than he already is.
That's a great point, and with how much magical protection he's stacking, it's going to be really, really hard for Allegiance to punch through it and make the solo laner pay. He's making them pay right now, 1-0-4. Really, really strong game so far out of the young solo laner for Luminosity. BaRRaCCuDDa quietly has 3 of the 5 kills. Really, like I mentioned, has been a big focus of Allegiance, trying to shut him down. But JeffHindla's been right there alongside him ever since those first few waves on the right-hand side.
The 2 side laners between BaRRa and ScaryD getting that 100% kill participation, with Mask setting them up with all 5 assists. Quietly 2 levels ahead is BaRRaCCuDDa over Oceans, and this is not something that Aram really wants to be, is behind.
Not at all, especially right around this stage up against a character like Anhur that has the Pillar maxed out, has a couple points of Desert Fury, Impale of course maxed out as well. It's gonna be difficult to get away from BaRRaCCuDDa on one of his signature gods in the Anhur. You can see in Mask's build here, it looked like he was going to go for some more power, some penetration, and then said, wait a minute, they've got 4 magical. I'm just going to build Silver Talisman, be a little bit harder to kill. Gold Fury started up here by Allegiance. Don't have a whole lot of outright secure burst damage, but only 2 members from Luminosity are here right now. They're the Desert Fury coming in from BaRRaCCuDDa, pluck onto Weaken. Mask still looking for his target. He's gonna find 2 with the knockup. BaRRaCCuDDa's locked in though.
Forced to jump away. These snipes from Oceans, misses the first 2. Third one off the mark as well. The Rising Dawn doing a little bit of damage over time, but here comes the Pillar of Agony, catching CycloneSpin and Oceans.
But there's no follow-up from the rest of Luminosity, and ScaryD is getting shredded. Meanwhile, Mask picked up Weaken in the backside. Scarab's Blessing on the wrong target, but the Rising Dawn will hit, and Mask is diving deep, looking for Oceans, finds the stun, needs a couple more. BaRRaCCuDDa leaping forward to try and join his jungler, but just not enough follow-up quite yet. Cyclone plucks back in. The Gem of Isolation already ticking for Baskin. That's gonna pick up the solo laner.
Whirlpool, the cripple, nowhere to dash away from. 2 easy kills there for Luminosity. ScaryD was doing a great job zoning with that Pillar of Agony, and the Scarab's Blessing. Hold that thought though, Golf, you're gonna get reset, trying to find a pick onto Metyankey, but a great job using that second ability to immune the frames. But look at this, ScaryD wrapping around.
Doesn't have the ultimate, but he's full health and got a lot of power ready to go. 3-man Fear secures the Gold Fury for Luminosity. Waxing Moon gonna stun a couple there for Metyankey, but the Pillar is not enough to slow everyone down. In fact, Ocean's the one trying to box into him.
Behind him, ScaryD finds the 3rd ability. Great kill yet again. ScaryD making his presence known in all of these little skirmishes and team fights, and this is why he's been making a huge name for himself in Spring Split so far in Season 4.
2-0-5, absolutely making the impact on this Hades. Mask as well, 1-0-8. Still a part of every single kill for Luminosity, really dictating the pace around that Gold Fury, darting in and out with, well, Dart, his dash.
Golf clap.
Thank you.
Golf clap. Either way, the Scarab's Blessing was also used there, intentionally meant for ScaryD to survive, again, for that Pillar of Agony time. But the fact that it was used on Mask actually helped him dive the backline a little bit longer there. It could also be used offensively and defensively, just for the movement speed.
You can see a Void Stone being picked up here by Baskin as well, still trying to mitigate all this magical damage. PolarBearMike forced into the Draconic Corruption as ScaryD's ultimate forced him to, but it was just a zone trying to get Luminosity that Portal Demon, and again, LG come away with the objective. 7-kill lead. More concerning, the 7,000 gold lead almost for Luminosity. And it's just come off the back of all of these objectives. 2 Gold Furies, 2 Portal Demons as well.
Not only did they get PBM's ultimate, they also got the Terra's Blessing from CycloneSpin, only trading it for Scary D's. So this is why we see Luminosity starting to group up and get this tier 1 tower in the mid lane. It's going to hurt the Titan in the long run a little bit longer, give a little bit more map positioning for Luminosity if they look to extend, which is why they're starting to push forward with the wards, and wrapping around is BaRRaCCuDDa.
There's the pluck on a PolarBearMike immediately into the Whirlpool. He's got no ult, and look at how he just keeps getting pulled back in, but he jumps out of the Kraken just in time. Weekend finds a big ultimate. Metyankey still trying to throw out those heals, apply that Lotus Crown to the whole team. Mask looking to find someone. There's the Desert's Fury, but Oceans is able to immune most of it with the Aegis. Scary D picks up PBM once more. 3 kills already for the Hades.
Scary D still diving the backline. CycloneSpin doing the same, trying to buy a little bit of time. Oceans is left alone. He has nowhere to go once he lands.
Nowhere to go is right. He's gonna fall. Actually gets the rolling assault off into the heal from Metyankey. Still not enough. Scary D finds him. JeffHindla still has that Scarab's Blessing available, and CycloneSpin's in the middle of 4. Scary creating a seal on the backside, making sure that Metyankey can't get anywhere close. In fact, Met might need to be careful because there's the Pillar of Agony just in time in order to get his 2, though. Met gonna be A-okay. Can't say the same for the tier 2 tower for Allegiance. That's gonna fall. 10-kill lead for Luminosity, and that gold lead getting dangerously close to 10,000 gold.
This game just accelerated 0 to 100 real quick about 5 minutes ago with all these kills from Luminosity. Scary D still making a huge impact, zoning so effectively, better than CycloneSpin currently. That's 4 levels behind this youngling here for Luminosity. We see the Thorns being picked up here as well. So Oceans is not going to be able to really focus him, which is why he's going to go into the chin size. And despite having the lifesteal a little bit, which will get negated by not only the Thorns here, but by the Pestilence.
You usually don't like to see chin size without a whole lot of penetration built into your build as well, because of the fact that that passive is mitigated by protections. But because of how much magical protection Luminosity is building into, because of the 4 magicals, Allegiance and Oceans in particular doesn't really need that much penetration. You see Sovereignty and Gauntlet of Thebes is going to provide a lot to the rest of the team thanks to that aura from JeffHindla, but it's still not, you know, he's not shooting into multiple Breastplate of Valors or anything along that nature.
I like the fact that JeffHindla picked up all 3 aura items as quickly as possible, and this is why he's been making a bigger impact in the team fights than PBM. The Coerce has been effective in the early game for Allegiance, picking up that Gold Fury around the 3-minute mark, but after that point in time, it's been all Luminosity just starting to group up, even utilizing the ultimate from Mask, trying to find people out of position, and this is the downfall of Allegiance's team composition, where they just don't have enough burst damage to really find the picks. And even if they do get the same target, like we mentioned, JeffHindla is there to mitigate all of it.
Fire Giant started up by Luminosity, already under 50% HP, but they peel off of it and pluck in PolarBearMike. A great Chang'e ultimate, though, from Metyankey. Saves the life of his support. Mask forced up into the sky. Weekend coming around the backside, traps in BaRRaCCuDDa, but no one else is there to help him out. Mask trying to find a couple. Great ultimate from Scary D. Locks in Weekend. Nowhere for him to go. Oceans falls by the hand of Mask as well. BaRRaCCuDDa picks up the jungler. Cyclone trying to run away. He's not going to be able to. 3 for 0. Luminosity dominating Allegiance.
They're going to be able to pick up the Fire Giant uncontested. Scary D is going to be able to zone away and stop the backs. Additionally, under that tier 2 tower, looking like he's going to heal a little bit longer, just being an annoying little soul laner that soul laners are.
And he can be. He's 5-0 and 8. He's level 20. The closest to him on Allegiance is level 16. He's going on characters that are level 14, level 13. And Allegiance decide they've had enough. They surrender early on here against Luminosity, 14-1. LG dominating ALG.
It wasn't the same 17-minute surrender that we saw earlier on today, but it's still a great performance by Luminosity. And then that last skirmish, that Chang'e ultimate hit 3 people, but there was just no burst damage to follow up off of that. Metyankey playing this utility Chang'e. It makes sense sometimes to run this kind of utility style, but you need damage elsewhere. Weekend was not in position to follow up.
We've seen the triple Guardian composition work wonders for teams like Valence Squadron over in Europe, and a lot of other teams have started to adopt it as well. But it's almost always with double Hunter because you need to have that physical damage. Otherwise, the enemy team just stacks magical protection, and then you surrender at 17 minutes because you don't do enough damage. Can game